I've been building my own kingdom for everyone to see. It exists to keep me safe from harm, and it's intact to glorify me. Nobody helped me build this up. It was me and me alone. I've appointed myself as the king, and I've given myself the throne. But it turns out I'm no ruler, and I have no control. So I have decided to destroy it all. I'm tearing down the walls, kicking down the doors. Everything inside this kingdom is yours. 'Cause what I've made is worthless, and it cannot stand. Come and breathe some life into my empty, cold, dead ends. Down with the fickle king, away with this fantasy. You are the one I need. Death to the kingdom of me. Death to the kingdom of me. I should probably be frightened. This empire's all I know, but it always does more damage than good. I'm afraid it's gotta go. I know that I can't be trusted, 'cause I'm just a man. And if you hadn't given your life for me, a loser would be all that I am. You know they say just follow your heart. I'm afraid that's a load of trash. Your heart will take you down to deep, dark places where you feel like you'll never come back. So I'm coming out of the dark. This facade is... I woke up feeling like it was time to tighten up. Yeah, I woke up feeling like it might be a good...
Welcome to the Two Tone Talk by God Pod, episode 133. Oh my gosh, it is Christmas Eve, and I'm telling you what, there may be coal waiting in the stocking of some certain people within the Tennessee Titans organization because, bro, I will just tell you this. Regarding head coach Brian Callahan, I have sat here week after week and I've said, hey, this guy's job's not safe. His job security is in question. But in the back of my mind, it's always like, they're probably not going to do it. They're probably not going to fire him after one season. The chances are not good. But after what I watched yesterday, I literally think it can happen. I really don't know what more could go wrong, especially over these last 3 weeks. The Jags, Bengals, and Colts game back to back to back. Because do you remember what we said after Tennessee beat Houston? We said, hey, the schedule actually lightens up here at the end of the year. Maybe the Titans can get some real culture wins to build on something for next year. Because after all, they could beat the Colts. They should beat the Jags. They could beat the Bengals. That's what we all said. We thought they could get a few wins. And in the stretch of their season that might have been the easiest, they have been at their absolute worst. Like, these 3 games, the Jaguars game where you put up a whopping 6 points at home and lose to one of the worst teams in the league. Then against the Bengals, you got destroyed and your quarterback was so bad he got benched. Then against the Colts, you go to a new quarterback where it's like, oh, this'll prove that it was all a Will Levis problem. And you come out and at one point you're down 38-7 to the Indianapolis Colts. I think Anthony Richardson threw like 10 passes because he didn't need to throw. This has been 3 weeks of worst case scenarios for Brian Callahan, one after the other. And I didn't see all of his press conference from this morning, but I know I saw where he was asked, do you think you're going to have to explain to Amy Adams Strunk why you should even stay? And his answer was, I don't know. His answer was, I don't know. Like, this is bad. It's bad. To the point where at Jacksonville this Sunday, we can talk about tanking, but like, Brian Callahan is going to be coaching for his job against the Jaguars on Sunday. If you can beat Jacksonville Sunday, maybe you buy yourself a little bit of time. But even then, if the Titans beat Jacksonville 13-10 on Sunday, is that going to convince any of you? Is that going to convince anybody? This is absolutely the worst. And you know what? I have found one thing that the Tennessee Titans of 2024 are good at. I have finally found one thing that this team is good at. You ready? This team is actually good at scoring garbage points late in the game when the game's already too far out of reach to make the score look better. That's something this team's good at. This team is good at getting down by multiple scores and then throwing together a couple of touchdowns late to make the score look better. Think about it, folks. Last week against Cincinnati, I think they were down 31-14 at one point, and they scored a couple of garbage touchdowns late, including one on you might have forgotten about it because you might have tuned out by then. It was literally the last play of the game. Mason Rudolph threw a touchdown to Josh Wiley on the last play of the game to make the score a little better. Tennessee ended up losing to the Bengals 37-27 was the final. So to look at that final score, you say, hey, if you didn't watch the game, you would look at that final score and say, hey, the Titans were competitive. They only lost by 10, but no, that does not tell the story. They were down 31-14 at one point. And then you get to yesterday against the Colts. You look at the final score, 38-30, and you say, oh, the Titans only lost by one score. They hung in there. No, do not let us off the hook for trying to score a couple of garbage touchdowns late. This game was 38-7 at one point. The Indianapolis Colts scored 38 unanswered points after the Titans went up 7-0. Like, we were down, so we had to get down by 31 points to finally decide to play with some pride and some dignity. No, a couple of late touchdowns to make the score look better does not let anybody off the hook at all. Absolutely nobody should get a pass for putting together a late rally to make the score look a little better. Like, no, that's No. Even in these meaningless games where we're out of playoff contention and whatnot, I've been interested to watch and see how the team fights for Brian Callahan. That's one of the main things I've been watching. How does this team show up and play for the coach? Because that could be a testament to his ability going into next season, if there is a next season for him. And you tell me, like, until this team got down 38-7 toward the end of the third quarter, what were you seeing from this team? This team came out flat, and it ain't the first time. They came out flat against the Commanders a few weeks ago. They came out flat against Green Bay back in week 3. They came out flat. Even the game they won against Houston, they came out flat. They gave up a long kick return and a touchdown on the first play of the game for Houston. So they come out flat. And this is the big one. The Tennessee Titans gave up over 300 rushing yards to the Indianapolis Colts yesterday. Over 300 rushing yards. Jonathan Taylor had 200 on his own. Okay. Now, I understand the situation we were in at linebacker. Inexperienced guys, Cedric Gray and James Williams in there. They're rookies. They haven't gotten a lot of playing time. I understand that, but you know as well as I do. This giving up over, like, yes, the Colts ran the ball well and the Titans just weren't good enough, but some of this just comes down to effort. Some of this just comes down to effort. When a team in 2024 doesn't even have to pass the ball because they're running at will against a team with a guy in Jeffrey Simmons who once upon a time said, "You do not run on the Tennessee Titans." Boy, as I said yesterday, those comments have aged like milk. The Titans got run on all day. And that comes down to effort. Like, you got absolutely obliterated up front. I mean, this was embarrassing. This is not professional football we're watching. And I'm so glad that Will Dotson just came into the chat. I know we have a super chat to read, but Will Dotson has an interesting point, because if you didn't see this, Colts tight end Mo Alley-Cox, after the game, came out onto the field early in the game. He said this in a post-game interview, and he said the Titans defense was admitting they were about to give up 300 rushing yards to the Colts. Go look. As a matter of fact, I shared it on Twitter last night. I'll read you. This was from Mo Alley-Cox after the game. He said, "It's hilarious." This is a direct quote. "It's hilarious because we went out there and they were like, 'Oh, it's a screen.' And then one of the defensive ends was like, 'Man, they're about to give it to Jonathan Taylor. He's about to run for 300 on us.' Once he said that, I was like, yeah, we got him." Presumably early in the game, we've got defensive players on the field saying, Jonathan Taylor is about to run for 300 on us. And then the Colts as a whole did run for 300 on you. So, yes, responsibility for that needs to lie with the players too. I mean, have some pride. But also, I mean, I almost want to call it soft. But also, like how pathetic how pathetic does this look for Brian Callahan if this is true and you got players on the field admitting that they're about to get torched and then they proceed to get torched? Like, how embarrassing. This is humiliating to watch. Sportacular in the super chat said, "I was there and seeing the Colts score every touchdown and Colts fans doing the bird is the word dance was cringe, and I wanted to cry. The only thing more cringe than the fans doing the bird is a word dance was watching the Titans try to play defense or offense or anything." I saw somebody in the chat earlier said this. I'd have to scroll up to see it, but somebody said, as a matter of fact, Let me scroll up, see this comment. Kane Max Level Elite said, I hate the microwave generation. How can we have stability without consistency? They said at the beginning it was going to take more than one season. Y'all need to relax. Listen, here's the thing. I agree. If you would have asked me that, if you would have asked me about this a month ago, I would have absolutely said yes. But I need everybody to understand how bad of a situation this is. Like, this is not just a bad team. This is a directionless team. This is a team that looks like it has no leadership. This is a team that has no vision. This is a team that's just a bunch of guys out there doing their own thing. Like, I would not, trust me, as I said this yesterday in my post-game reaction to the game, I am not the type of fan to just come on here and say, fire the coach, fire the quarterback, because a lot of times I think that's just a lazy cop-out argument. But if I didn't believe this in my heart, I would not say, I see no reason to be confident in Brian Callahan at all right now. I don't see anything from Brian Callahan that excites me. This team looks like they have absolutely... I mean, we know the Titans are capable of stopping the run. They've done it before. Yesterday, they just didn't do it. Credit to the Colts, whatever, but like the Titans went out there and gave up over 300 yards rushing because they can't wait for the season to be over. And I get it. You're 3-12 and you're already planning your off-season vacation. But my goodness, if they really cared about Brian Callahan as a coach and cared about preserving his job, I'm just telling you, they would have played better yesterday. And making that late rally to make the score look better does not change my mind on that at all. If they really cared about whether Brian Callahan has a job next year or not, they would have played better than they did. And you can say whatever you want about Mike Vrabel. I still don't think Vrabel was the right guy long term. But you know what? Vrabel could at least, the players wanted to play for him. At least you could say that. At least the players wanted to play for Vrabel. At least, unless you're T.R. Tart, the players wanted to play for Vrabel. I don't think anybody, I'm sure Brian Callahan's a nice guy. They might get along with him. But like nobody looks like they are pumped up to play for Brian Callahan. And I hate it. I hate it. Because I wanted him like Duval. Why is anybody from Duval in here? When I imagine a Tennessee Titans fan, this guy is exactly what I envision. What is that even supposed to mean? Good looking with a smoking hot wife? Because that's what you're looking at, baby. And honestly, I can almost bet every single one of you in the chat look just like him. Well, I'd love to know what you look like, Duval County Jaguars Madden Gaming. You sound like a real winner. But I can't tell what you look like because you don't even have the guts to put your own picture in the thing. You have the ugly Duval. And if you look anything like the Duval logo, then you probably explains why you're probably single. But anyway, enjoy playing Madden, though. Enjoy playing Madden Gaming. Have fun. Anyway, the effort was not there, but it hasn't been there in weeks. Probably has tie-dye hair braids. Yeah. But Merry Christmas, though. And here's what I want to know, because I'm already seeing you guys in the chat talk about this, and I respect everybody's opinion, but I just don't understand why people are so quick to defend people in this organization. Like, I don't understand why, like, Will Levis last week was awful against Cincinnati and he got benched and everybody was like, okay, it's all on Will Levis. Everything's a Will Levis problem. Well, then this week Will doesn't play and the team is still bad and they still don't do well. I mean, Mason Rudolph looked like a backup quarterback having to start is what he looked like to me. And the team still looked terrible and got killed. So now it's like, oh, well, we can clear Will Levis of any blame. Like, we can clear Will Levis of any blame and just put it all on Callahan, and at least, well, like, Will Levis is clear. No. Like, just because Brian Callahan's not good, that doesn't make Will Levis good either. Like, here's the thing. Based on what we've seen this season, what is there to tell you that they're just both, like, they're both bad, okay? They're both bad. Like, that's, at the end of the day, what if they're just both bad? What if Callahan's not the right coach and Will Levis is not the right quarterback? Like, it can all be true. And in fact, when you are this bad, it's probably all true. Will's not the right guy. Callie's not the right guy. Ran Carthon, I like Ran, but I just don't know. It's actually funny to me how similar the Titans are to the Raiders right now, because you almost have Will Levis in the role of Aiden O'Connell and you have Mason Rudolph in the role of Gardner Minshew. Like, it's just, you've either got a backup who can come in and just kind of do whatever, or you've got a young guy who is mostly not good but can do a couple of good things every now and then. Like, that's kind of where I feel like we are. So I literally don't want to let anybody off the hook. I don't want to let Jeffrey Simmons off the hook for, first of all, jumping off sides on the Colts' first offensive play of the game yesterday when our special teams finally made a good play and down to punt at the 1-yard line. And on the first play that the Colts ran, Jeffrey Simmons jumped off sides and gave him 5 yards. That's unacceptable. He also had a terrible personal foul later in the game that gave the Colts 15 yards. Awful. Unacceptable for a leader on the team that's getting paid as much as he is. Absolutely pathetic. Pass rush, once again. Well, I don't even know about pass rush because the Colts barely even had to pass. Like, you can't really judge the pass rush because they just had limited opportunities to even rush the passer because the Colts were just running so much. Same with the secondary. It's like, the secondary didn't really have to do very much because they were just getting run on all day in the pass. They didn't have to do much in the pass game. Light in the super chat says, do you think the Titans will sign T. Higgins? T. Higgins is a very talented guy, but I just think the Titans need younger guys. I think the Titans, with Calvin Ridley, who's going to be back, who's already, a veteran, having 2 veterans and T. Higgins with injuries, that worries me. So I would like to go younger on the receiving core, but I don't know. I find it hard right now to even get into those discussions because it's like I don't even know who the coach is going to be because I think everybody's job's on the line right now. Like I don't know who's going to be back next year. I really like Brian Callahan may very well get fired, and I don't know if I could. I don't know if I could blame Amy for doing it. Like, when things get this bad, it's worse than you could have imagined. I compared the Titans to the Panthers. The Panthers are 4-11. They have a terrible record, but like their fans are going to be excited going into the offseason because their quarterback's playing better, their team's playing better, they're hanging in there with teams like KC and Philly. And then, yesterday they beat the Arizona Cardinals, who are supposed to be better than them. Like that's 2 teams who both have bad records, but one of them has hope and a direction for the future, and one of them's the Titans, and they don't have anything. And so I get what everybody says about Amy, and it's like, well, Amy would not fire Brian Callahan and then have to pay 3 coaches at once, because if she fires Callahan, hires somebody else, now you're still paying Vrabel, you're still paying Callahan, and then you would now be paying the new coach. I understand that some people think that Amy wouldn't do it, but Paul Kaharski made a good point last night on Twitter. She's done it before. Like, she has done it before. At one point, she was paying Ken Wisenhunt, Mike Mularkey, and Mike Vrabel all at once. So, like, she's done it before. I'm not saying she would do it again, but she's done it before. And like Mike Vrabel's probably going to get hired somewhere, I think. And so I think I saw somewhere where if he gets hired, the Titans like don't have to pay him. I think I read that. Like maybe somebody confirmed that because that is not a confirmed report. But I think I read where if Mike Vrabel were to get hired to coach somewhere next year, the Titans do not owe him any more money. So I think it is very possible that Brian Callahan could be fired, especially like, my goodness, if you go and get like no effort against Jacksonville, if you get whooped by Jacksonville, even if you just get beat by 10 or so, like I think Brian Callahan could be fired the next day. Like it's that bad. And I would have never dreamed that these Titans would be this bad this year, that it would even be possible that Brian Callahan could be fired, but they are. And I've heard a lot of people, or I've seen a lot of people arguing about, is this team worse than the Ken Whisenhunt 10 years ago Titans? I really think they are. Like, I think this Titans team is even worse. Because at least that Titans team had some guys for the culture that could kind of, you knew they were going to be around and they were going to be big time players for years to come. But right now on this Titans team, I don't see any of that. So I literally think this may be, I mean, Teron Davenport, who covers the Titans for ESPN, he said this on Twitter yesterday. He said, this is the worst team that I've ever covered. Teron Davenport said that yesterday. He said, this is the worst team I've ever covered, these 2024 Tennessee Titans. So that's why, I mean, I think if you're Amy, like, yeah, you could fire. You could fire. And I know people, I've said it too. Won't that be kind of not appealing to the next coach that, could come here? They're going to be scared to come here because they think they may get fired. I mean, I could see that being a thing, but at the end of the day, like, that's not a good enough excuse to keep a guy who's doing a bad job. Like, we don't want to scare off the next guy. Look, I hate to compare to the Houston Texans, but the Houston Texans did this with 2 straight coaches that they fired, one and dones, and then they ended up with D'Amico Ryans, who's done a good job. So, like, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen here, but, like, you're not guaranteed that, like, nobody's going to want to come to Tennessee if you fire Brian Callahan after 1 year. It's just it's on the table. It's very on the table that Brian Callahan could be fired. And more so than anything, for the fans, like, we need to realize, no matter who you place the most blame on, whether it's Levis or Callahan or whoever, like, this is unacceptable. Like, we are the fans who pour our money into this organization. We pay for tickets to the games. We pay for merchandise. We pay for jerseys. We pay at the concession stand when we go. We pay to park. We do all these things. It's unacceptable what we've seen this year. Like, it's not serious. It's not a serious football team at all. And it's not fair to the fans. It's not fair to the fans who continue to show up for this team when the team doesn't show up for us. Like, that's the best way I could put it. You're asking what coach would we even go for? Wesley Barnes says Arthur Smith. No, thank you. But I really don't know. People have said Ben Johnson. What in the world makes you think Ben Johnson would ever want to come here? He didn't even want to interview with us last year, So I just don't think that's going to happen. Kirk Cousins so they're talking about Kirk Cousins. We'll talk about quarterbacks later this week, but I gave my thoughts on Friday about who I thought I would give the job to. But speaking of quarterbacks, if you're looking for any good news for the Titans, yesterday we moved up 2 spots in the draft. We were 6th going into yesterday. Now we're 4. And so One of the teams ahead of us is Jacksonville. If you go lose to Jacksonville, you move up to 3 with a shot to get to 2 because the Patriots are playing the Bills in Week 18. Some people seem to think the Bills might be playing their backups in that game. So you could at least get to 3 in the draft if you lose to Jacksonville this week. And you're getting up into, you're in Shedeur Sanders, Cam Ward range. And I've made it clear to you guys I'm not crazy about either one of them, especially Cam Ward. I think I see a lot of the same things from Will Levis in Cam Ward. I think I see just trying to do too much, trying to play hero ball, being reckless with the football, and that scares me. Shedeur Sanders is the one that intrigues me the most. And even if the Titans were to stay at 4, the 3 teams ahead of them, you've got the Giants. They're going to go quarterback. And so, if the Titans stayed at 4, you get whatever quarterback the Giants don't get. It's an option. It's a realistic option. I'd rather have Abdul Carter because I think he's a beast edge rusher and we need him. So I'd maybe rather trade back potentially. But, it's going to be an option. If the Titans stay up where they are right now, taking Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward is certainly going to be an option. And we got plenty of time to talk about that. You guys know how I feel about it. I'm not crazy about either one of them. I could be talked into Shedeur Sanders, but I'm not crazy about, I'd almost rather go with a veteran for a year. I'd rather go with, I'm not going to say his name because I said it on Friday and everybody in the chat was going nuts. But, if you're looking for good news that we've moved up in the draft, but there's just, I've seen people say about this Titans team, they say, oh, we're just so far away. That's not even the term. It's not just that we're far away. We're not even in the same galaxy. We're not even on the same planet as being where we need to be. So there's a lot. There's a lot that needs to change. And on the roster, on the coaching staff, and it's a disaster. The worst possible thing that could have happened this year would be to find out that Will Levis is not the guy, and also Brian Callahan's not the guy either. That's a worst case. I guess a worst case would be if you still didn't know what you had with Levis, but I think it's time to move on from everybody. After these last 3 weeks, I'm not going to fault the owner if she just wants to just clean house and move on from everybody because it's that bad. It's that bad. When there's a cancer in your body, you got to take it out before you can start the healing. And there's a lot of that in this organization. Wesley Barnes is a massive Falcons fan, everybody. So he is referring to Kirk Cousins when he says, I know a guy. And here's the thing, guys. That also is a legitimate option for the Titans. I hate to say that because I don't want Kirk Cousins. But if the Falcons are going to cut him, that's an affordable option. That's a cheap option for the Titans for 2025. We got a lot of time to talk about that stuff. But Josh Dobbs, Josh Dobbs, you may as well keep Will. You may as well just see what you can do with Will next year if you're going to get a guy like Josh Dobbs or Jameis Winston. I have seen a lot of people talk about drafting Shedeur and hiring Coach Prime. And you know what? This organization is so drunk anyway. Go ahead, dude. Go ahead. Roll the dice. They're not going to do that, but go ahead. I also saw Sal on the Sick podcast. He posted a clip from their podcast of something he said the Titans needed to do, and I laughed when I saw it. But now I'm just forget it. Go ahead. He said the Titans should hire John Gruden to be the coach. And when I saw that clip from their podcast last week, I kind of was like, oh, come on, Sal. Come on, bro. But you know what? Go ahead. Go ahead. Hire John Gruden. Go hire John Gruden. Make sure you don't send any inappropriate emails and go hire John Gruden. Why not? Why not? We're at rock bottom, folks. We're below rock bottom. We've reached below rock bottom. We're all the way down to the people's elbow. Like we've gone even further down than the rock bottom. We've gone past the signature move and we're now going to the finisher move for The Rock. So, I mean, any decision that Amy could possibly, and if they fire Callahan, yes, there are going to be media people who say this is ridiculous because they haven't won. I mean, you saw Stephen A. Smith last week trying to paint the picture that Brian Callahan's a victim because he's having to try to make it work with Will Levis. We'll explain yesterday. Will didn't play. And I just want to say real quick, two things that I've seen in my comments a lot that I hope after yesterday and after this season, we can just put to bed. First of all is the notion that the Titans should just go with Mason Rudolph next year. I hope you guys have gotten that out of your system. Like, I really hope that you watched yesterday and just got the whole Mason. I don't know. I never understood. I never knew that Mason Rudolph had such a fan club out there of people who just believe he's a superstar. Because it's like, dude, he is a backup quarterback. A fine backup quarterback, but that's it. All of you that have been randomly saying we need to go with Mason Rudolph next year, I just don't even understand. How can you watch that game yesterday and be like, yes, that's what I want a whole year of? Also, the second thing that I have heard time and time again that absolutely drives me up the wall, the Titans should fire Callahan and promote Denard Wilson to head coach. Have you been watching this defense? Have you been watching this defense? This defense that gave up over 300 yards rushing yesterday, this defense that got torched by Malik Willis in week 3, this defense that gave up over 50 to the Detroit Lions and gave up nearly 40 to the Cincinnati Bengals and gave up 40, I think, to the Commanders. Like, and you're trying to talk to me about promoting that guy to head coach? What? I don't want to promote anybody on this coaching staff to head coach. I'm just going to tell you right now. I don't want to promote any of them to head coach. So, it's very on the table that the coach could be fired. Very on the table. It's more a reality than it's ever been, and Brian Callahan seems to know it. The only thing that would bum me out about Brian Callahan getting fired is that I actually feel like his dad, Bill Callahan, has done a good job with the offensive line. I know. You're talking about Colt Anderson, Luke. Luke in the chat is making a joke saying we need to elevate Colt Anderson as the head coach. And I'll just go jump off a cliff if that happens. But, yeah, the offensive line has actually gotten better. So that would be the only thing I would hate about getting rid of Brian Callahan is that you would lose Bill Callahan. Maybe we could promote Bill Callahan to coach. Because actually the offensive line has become one of the more stable parts of the team. J.C. Latham was very good yesterday. Peter Skoronski has been great this year. I would venture to say Peter Skoronski has been one of the top 3 players on this team. He's not given up a sack in like 2 months. Corey Levin came in at center yesterday and played well. Dylan Radins was fine. Right tackle, yeah, Nicholas Petit-Frere got benched. We got to figure that out. But the offensive line is good enough to win. This offensive line has been good enough to win. But, I mean, it's just there are so many needs elsewhere. They're not well coached. The team is not well coached. They don't have an answer at quarterback. We can't get to the passer. And I'll just, before I break down the rest of the games from yesterday and this weekend, I just want to say this. I see a lot of people all the time, Sal from Jersey should be the head coach. Dude, I mean, he's got some ideas. I've seen so many people who say, well, we all knew this year wasn't going to be good for the Titans. We all knew that the Titans weren't going to be good this year. I've seen a lot of that, but like, first of all, that's not what I remember from the summer. From the summer, I remember everybody. I mean, I was excited, not because I thought we were going to the playoffs or the Super Bowl, but I thought this could be a 8-9 win team ceiling. But even a 7-8 win team, just a team that was headed in the right direction, that was laying groundwork for the future. I just expected that. Kind of maybe even what we're seeing from Carolina. But instead, we've got this. So I don't even remember people feeling like this wasn't going to be a good season. And you can just rest assured. All of the moves that the Titans made this offseason, Calvin Ridley, L'Jarius Sneed, Cheeto Awuzie, Lloyd Cushenberry, Tony Pollard, whoever else. They did not make all those moves to go 3-12. I'm not saying they thought they were going to the playoffs. I'm not saying they thought they were going to the Super Bowl, but they did not do all of that to be 3-12. They did not hype up Brian Callahan as this offensive guru, the quarterback whisperer. Oh, he's worked with all these greats. They did not do that because they thought they were going 3-12. And it's the worst kind of 3-12. It's a 3-12 that is directionless, hopeless. If you hear my dog, even my dog knows. He's not happy about it either. They did not do all of this to go 3-12. This is not what anybody expected. This is not what anybody thought was going to happen. This is worse than anybody thought. And I have brought up Jake Browning before, because Jake Browning has been brought up here in the chat. I've brought up Jake Browning before. It would make sense, except for the fact that if Brian Callahan's back next season, you got to get somebody that can win some games. Because if you're back at the start of next season, if you get to the halfway point and you still are terrible like you are now, you're getting fired. They've got to get somebody that can win. That's why I'm worried we're going to overpay for Sam Darnold. All right. The Chiefs beat the Texans. Getting harder and harder to defend the Chiefs from just being the referee's favorites. But Chiefs beat the Texans. Terrible injury to Tank Dell. I think the Texans are going to be one and dones. Ravens beat the Steelers 34-17. Steelers coming back down to earth these last couple of weeks. Ravens heating up, going to the playoffs. I think they'll win their division. Rams beat the Jets. Somebody said, can the Titans kick? Just glad you brought that up. Braden Arvison, potential kicker of the future, missed a field goal short yesterday. So got to figure that out because ain't going to be Narvison. Rams beat the Jets 19-9. I mean, for all of you who laughed at me for saying the Titans should go get Aaron Rodgers, listen. Aaron Rodgers was 28 of 42 for 256 and a touchdown. It's not a bad day. Not a great day, not a bad day. But to hear you guys talk about Aaron Rodgers, you would have thought he was just a geriatric out there. They did lose to the Rams 19-9. The Rams are going to win the NFC West, by the way. The Commanders beat the Eagles 36-33. God, if you could just please smile on the Titans and give them a guy like Jaden Daniels someday. Like, this dude is just a monster. The Commanders, they're not going to win their division, but dang, what a win for them over the Eagles. Hand the Eagles their first loss since like week 2 or 3 or whatever. Commanders look really good. Falcons beat the Giants. What was Pinnock's final stat line here? Falcons beat the Giants 34-7. If there is a team worse than the Titans in the NFL, they are the New York Giants. Now that's something I haven't thought about. Hold on. I don't know if anybody in here is more knowledgeable about this than me. Would Prime let Shedeur go to the Giants? Would he let him go to the Titans? I don't know, but I've heard it said that Prime would never let Shedeur go to the Giants. I don't know if he would let him go to the Titans because why? Michael Penix was 18 of 27 for 202 and an interception. But that interception, if you haven't seen it, was all Kyle Pitts. Kyle Pitts will be on a new team next year, I'm assuming. Yeah, it's a bad weekend for Tennessee sports. Vols got blown out by Ohio State. Titans got blown out by the Colts. Panthers beat the Cardinals 36-30. Like I said, Bryce Young playing really well. Good win for them. That's a culture win for the Panthers. Bengals over the Browns 24-6. Joe Burrow may be the best quarterback to never make the playoffs, or to not make the playoffs in a season, I should say. He may go down as the best quarterback to miss the playoffs in a season because he's just been sensational. Browns are horrible. What was their quarterback? They benched Winston. Yeah, not great for Thompson Robinson. Lions beat the Bears 34-17. I mean, Bears are terrible. The Lions got back on track, knew they would. Vikings beat the Seahawks. I mean, listen, for all of you Darnold believers, Sam Darnold, 22 of 35, 246, 3 touchdowns. You know, like, he's played well. I just don't think that he would be able to duplicate that in Nashville. Bills beat the Patriots 24-21. Not the best game of the season for the Bills, but they won. Raiders beat the Jags. This is good news for the Titans. Raiders beat the Jags, which means that the Titans move up in the draft. I'm just nervous the Titans are going to beat the Jaguars. I got this sick feeling that we're going to beat the Jags. I'm assuming Hunch Oz 300 is a Colts fan. He said hopes and dreams, sweep. Yeah, I mean, y'all got a good little running back in Anthony Richardson, and thought he carried the ball well. I mean, he only threw the ball 10 times, and he still managed to throw a terrible interception. So, I mean, bravo. Dolphins beat the 49ers 29-17. Who cares? Cowboys beat the Bucks 26-24. Bad loss for the Bucks. What in the world? Okay. I'll be back Friday. This is the last episode before Christmas. So, after all of this negativity, I do want to wish you a Merry Christmas to everybody out there that listens to the pod and watches the pod and, tunes in each week or even some of the weeks. I appreciate you guys. And I hope you have a Merry Christmas this year, even if you're a hater like Hunch Oz 300. I'm just picking with you, man. But have a happy new year and Merry Christmas. I'll see you before the new year, but Merry Christmas, everybody. And I hope your Christmas is better than this football season has been. Merry Christmas, guys. It's Two-Tone Talk by God Pod. Staying way too high on the wins and way too low on all of the losses because they just keep piling up. God bless you, everybody. Merry Christmas. Bye.